G'day guys, welcome back to a new episode of the Boundary Riders podcast, episode 127, and of course, with finals on the horizon, we have a lot to talk about today. Going to be taking a look at which team we believe will be able to go all the way this season towards the premiership. Charlie Curnow, and basically everything to do with the Trade Rumour Circus that has been circulating basically throughout the year, been simmering, but now getting to a boiling point. And of course, the previews to the finals, along with my brother's betting segment and much more. So let's roll the intro and get straight into it. Welcome to the Boundary Riders podcast, your one-stop shop for all your AFL content needs. He looks at his options, and Jack Ginnivan says, boys, you brought me to the club to do just this! But this guy has Flog written all over him. From attack down, Reed sprints away from Petrarca, leaves him in his wake, takes a second bounce, takes a third. The sheer arrogance of Harley Reid. Finish the job, young man! So let's get into the footy news from the week that was. So guys, before I introduce my brother, who's here by the way, who cares? We're sorry last week we actually didn't do a podcast. Just had so much to do with the Boundary Riders live stream. So we'll get in the awards night and every sort of thing like that. But, you know, you're here. None of our teams are in finals. Do we even give a shit anymore?
No, we're just waiting on the fairy tale finish for some team then to
hopefully Freo.
Yeah.
Who do we want to win? Is like who's the wagon team? Who's the team you want to win?
The easy one is to go the expansion cup teams or anything like that. But I think...
Well, there's three teams that have not won a premiership before who could potentially win it.
Yeah, I think you have to go for one of those three, don't you?
If your team's not in it, you have to go for one of them.
Yeah, and if one person tells me from South Australia, if you're from South Australia, you have to go for the Crows. If you're from WA, you have to go for Freo. And if you're from like Sydney or Brisbane, Sydney, you have to go for the Giants. That's bullshit, in my opinion.
No, I agree. I mean, I'm not barracking for the Giants. I'm not barracking for the Crows either. I don't think Crows fans should expect Port fans to be happy if they go on and win it.
And if the Crows fans expect that, well then
they
don't know the rivalry then.
Yeah, I don't think that they should, and I think that's more than fair enough. If you have a rivalry with a team, you shouldn't then go for them just because they're in your state. That's bullshit. If anything, you should hate them more.
Yeah,
I think that's fair enough.
Yeah,
they're rivals for a reason.
Yeah, you want them out straight sets. You want them out straight away, so you don't have to look at them, or you don't have to hear them in the press or anything like that.
Yeah, no, I think that's more than fair. But yeah, wagon teams. I think Gold Coast, GWS, Freo. I think everyone really kind of wants Freo to win it. I think yes, the Gold Coast, the Giants. But
I think Gold Coast. Some people are coming in for that one with David Swallow today, but
yeah, well, that's true. I mean, we might as well get to the stories for the week as well. And if you haven't seen it, I'm sure most people would know by now. But sad news: Sean Lemons has retired from the Gold Coast.
Yeah,
really sad
that's
news.
the one thing I was thinking of. Yeah, yeah.
I really think that a lot of people are not timing their retirement calls very well.
I think
we saw Rory Atkins make his call when Travis Boak's making his retirement. Not a great call, bro. Maybe just go on for a year. He should be delisted,
or just say that I retire immediately. I think just the superstar, the cult hero, the leader retires, and then the other someone else does it, and it's like.
I mean,
okay.
Do we really care?
It's like okay, you're retiring. Good on you.
Yeah. Obviously, David Swallow's retired. Gone through so much at the Gold Coast. He was one of the few players who stayed. I mean, you could have thought of, he could have had every right to leave around those years when players like Prestia, Lynch, May, all those players left. He decided to stay. He was the captain. He was the leader. He's well and truly a Suns player, and hopefully he comes in and plays this week against the Freo Dockers.
Yeah, I think he needs to do the same game style, well, the same position as Nat Fyfe. He'll come on, he should be the sub. I think that's his, in a way, right. Yeah. He's been there 15 years through the slogs of the heavy defeats, of the rebuild to start off the
growth of the team, then the rebuild, and then the rebuild, and then the rebuild.
Yeah. I think he deserves to have, if anyone deserves a spot, I think you put him in the team.
Yeah.
I think you put him number one. I think we just said it. He's been through the struggles. He deserves to have the reward of being there in their first final.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of hard luck stories going into this final. Or could be hard luck stories, and maybe someone could get a fairy tale. We've got, obviously, Nat Fyfe, like you quickly mentioned. Cal Ward, obviously, will be injured, so he won't be able to see success on the playing field if the Giants are able to go all the way. But I'm sure he'll be there in the coach's box if they are to make a fairy tale run. Matt Crouch as well for Adelaide hasn't made his retirement just yet, but obviously did announce it recently that he will be finishing up at the end of the season. Could be a bunch more as well, depending on how things go. Mitch Duncan as well for the Cats has made his announcement. I mean, he's obviously won a few, so I'm sure he won't be that disappointed if they... I mean, won't be. I'm sure there'll be a little bit of disappointment if he's not able to get back into the team, but he's already won a couple. I'm sure he'll be fine.
Yeah.
Look, boys, I've got my 2 medallions. Oh, can't believe I didn't get a third one. Oh, the hot wait. Was he even there in 2020? I would have been there in 2011, I'm pretty sure. He would have got it in 2022.
I don't think he played it. I don't think he was there.
Oh, maybe not.
pretty
Right, well,
sure,
he's got
but
one.
He's got one, yeah.
He'll be happy with that. He can retire with that. Oscar McInerney's another one as well. It could be a hard luck story for Brisbane if he can't make his way back into the team.
Yeah,
Because it seems at the moment they're going with Darcy Fort, which
Yeah.
would be amazing if he's able to take that spot off him in 2024, just out of pure luck, really.
Yeah.
Well, not luck, but I mean, I guess just coincidence with injury, and then be able to hold Oscar McInerney away from another potential chance would be massive. Taylor Walker could be seen retirement as well at the end of this season if they go on to win it. There could be a bunch more. Interesting to see if Geelong are able to go all the way if Patrick Dangerfield potentially calls it as well. I think he'd probably go around again.
I think he's got one more year in him at least.
Yeah, I felt like if he was going to retire, potentially it would have been in 2022. I feel like if they go and win it again, yeah. But I mean, Joel Selwood, I don't think many people would have expected him to retire. Like, no one really expected it till maybe the day of the grand final. I don't remember a lot of people talking about him retiring.
No, I think if we saw stories after the grand final, I think you just knew that it was within that week.
Yeah, well, I mean, even like what Joe Danaher, no one really thought about it too much until the week of, and a couple of reports came out. Even I think it was the day of the grand final last year, and all of a sudden he was gone. Very interesting to see that a lot of trade rumours have just gone now. Well, not trade rumours, but just rumours of his return have just gone all of a sudden.
Yeah,
They've just quickly diminished.
Well,
No one
yeah,
cares.
it's interesting though, isn't it?
We'll get to the trade rumours and that in a minute. We won't be doing like a full video of like how I do the regular trade videos, but I think we'll just go over a couple of things because there's been a lot of shit throughout this week. It seems like it's just coming to a boiling point. But let's get to a couple of injury topics as well coming into this final series. And it's basically on this one game at this point for Collingwood and the Crows. This morning, Jordan De Goey was seen clutching at his lower leg at training. And I think every single news outlet basically put it out there that it was season ending. They didn't play the full context or the minutes up after. I mean, I saw it and I was like, oh, fuck, you could be out this week. And then I saw it from Collingwood fan account. What's his name? Swoop Luke.
Yeah.
He put it out there saying he's fine, it'll be good. So I'm like, yeah, okay, great. I have to find a fan account to actually post the actual truth. Good on you, Channel 7. Quick spinning out those fucking annoying trade rumors that mean absolutely nothing. But, you can't actually give some context for what's happened with Jordan De Goey. Yeah. I think Craig McRae, you did say, came out in a press conference after and said he should be fine.
Yeah, it was literally like, he was in the training session. 25, 30 minutes later, he's at the press conference. Is he okay? Yeah, he's fine. He literally came on 2 minutes later. He went off, for 2 minutes, then came back on and finished the session. Yeah,
it's like all the reporters who actually caught that footage were like, oh shit, he's injured. Let's go quickly post the story. Has he got back up? Who cares?
Yeah. It was the fact is that Quaynor literally tackled him and he fell on his ankle and he limped off a bit.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was just, I
mean, it is a contact sport. Eventually, sometimes you will get some knocks.
Sadly, in training, you have to, have the contact as well.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I mean,
for many people.
Yeah, I mean, at least he got back up and at least he'll be fine for the game.
I think he needs to be for their chances this weekend.
Yeah, I agree. Josh Rochelli was another one. He won't be playing this week, which would be very interesting. Obviously, Isaac Rankin out with a suspension. Josh Rochelli won't return, so potentially a semi-final or prelim if they go and win. So it really comes down to a couple of... it comes to Ben Keys and then a couple of lesser experienced guys in the team who are going to have to take over up forward for the Crows, like the small forwards, because not many tall forwards like rip a game apart these days in finals. It's a lot more of like you got to grind out goals a lot of the time. And I mean, every now and then, I mean, I'm sure I could see a Crows tall absolutely rip some finals apart this year, but you can't rely on them to kick 13 of the goals.
No,
when you're thinking about it,
you got to have like 7, 8 different goal scorers in a final.
Yeah, I mean their midfielders. I mean Dawson's kicked quite a few this year, but there hasn't been a lot of their midfielders who have kicked a lot of goals. I wouldn't think. I mean, like I said, Dawson's kicked a few, but there would be a couple that are probably, they're going to need a couple out of, the Keysers, the Saligos, even through the middle of the ground, a couple of wingmen. They're going to need those players to come through and kick some goals. But let's move to some of the trade rumour news. And I want to talk about Charlie Curnow, because this story has been, circulating for a lot of the season, at least for about the second half of it. And now, basically, since Carlton's season's over, it has just reached peak reporter garbage at this point. Now, first of all, I want to ask, how much do you think to a club, how much would you give up for him? If he was going to Port Adelaide tomorrow, how much would you be giving for him? Like, first of all, he's 29 years of age, so he's getting up there now. On the other hand, though, he's a two-time Coleman medalist. Arguably the best power forward in the game previous to basically from 2023. So the last 2 years he's had a couple of injuries, which is obviously something against him, a con. What would you be giving up as a team?
Oh, well, to be fair, he's still worth a first rounder. And like, say for Paul, for example, you give up a first and a player. Who would you say? I wouldn't give up, like, say, that a first rounder in Butters who wants to leave, but I would consider, before he signed, a Bergman and a first rounder. Yeah. I think that's a fair trade.
So, obviously, as the resident Swans fan of the channel, there's been a huge amount of rumours circulating around what Carlton should be asking for if Curnow was basically adamant saying, I don't want to come back. I'm not going to play, he's going to throw up the white flag and say, I surrender, I don't want to be here anymore. So, obviously a lot of people for Carlton would be saying they're looking at the big four of the Swans. You're looking at Heaney, Golden, Blakey, and Warner. Those are the four that a lot of people are saying they have to target. Papley was also mentioned as well, but that was quickly extinguished by the Papley management. He said no, he's not going there. Very interesting, because it was 2019 when he actually requested a trade to Carlton, but now they don't want to go. I think a lot of his family, I think it was his partner, moved over to New South Wales to be with Papley, so that's a lot of the reason why he doesn't want to go back anymore. And I think there was a bunch of family issues back at the time as to why he was requesting a trade back to Victoria, but that's been rejected. So obviously Carlton, they're saying that the only way they would get it done is if they asked for one of those big four. Kane Corns, in his huge amount of wisdom, said that the Swans should do the trade for Errol Goulden. Are you fucking kidding me? No way.
Yeah.
He's 23, 24 years of age, Errol Goulden. We saw how good he was when he returned for Sydney. I think he's honestly their next captain. I think that the Swans I would not be shocked if the Swans make a change on their captain next year, or at least go co-captain with Goulden and Mills. Personally, I think that's what they will do.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised if they go sole captain with Errol Goulden either. But no way in hell if I'm the Swans, I would do that deal.
No.
I don't think many Swans fans would do that deal either. I agree that is an incredibly bad decision.
Yeah.
Because Errol Goulden, not only is he a great leader of the Swans at the moment, we saw how much impact he had when he returned, but just on the fact that how good a player he is, how good the foot skills, how important that is to the game now. You would not give that up for a guy who's 29, who's been injury ravaged for the past 2 seasons. Yes, obviously the upside of Charlie Curnow is massive. There is a huge amount of upside for him, but is he going to hit that anymore? I don't think he can. And I mean, even if he can, 3 years time, Errol Goulden's going to be in his absolute prime. Charlie Curnow's gone.
Yeah.
But I mean, look, you could point it out the other part of it as well. That Charlie Curnow, if the Swans won 2 premierships in 3 years' time with Charlie Curnow in the team, was it a worthy trade? Maybe it was. I just don't see that being a great idea. I personally would not trade anything. Like I've been saying to you all week, if I'm the Swans, I would go with, Ollie Florent's been linked to Carlton. Give up an Ollie Florent and a potential top pick. Now, I know the Swans are actually looking at a couple of players in their academy, so I don't think they can give up a top pick. But, you've got players there that the Swans could use as potential trade bait. Peter Laddams, for one. The Blues need a ruckman. Throw in Peter Laddams, throw in an Ollie Florent. 2 of those players, they're 2 targets that the Blues actually need. They need a halfback who can run and use the football, and they need a ruckman. offer them 2 up, potential second rounder, Charlie Curnow, I would be happy with that. None of the top 4. I am sorry. No, you're not taking Errol Gordon. You're not taking Nick Blakey. Chad Warner just re-signed. I don't think he's going to Victoria. And Isaac Heaney, I don't know. Maybe a couple of people could say he's a bit older. Like he's around the age of Charlie Curnow. I still wouldn't do it though. We obviously see how much Isaac Heaney, means to the Swans. How much influence he has in games. Like I think we saw in the awards night we had with the channel that he won 3 best of the rounds votes. Just because how good he is, how much he can change a game, how much of a star he is at his best. And he's been a little bit inconsistent this year, but at his best, we can see how good a player he is.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So that was one that I saw. I was thinking that's absolutely ridiculous. There's been so much talk. He's been linked to Carlton. He's been linked to St Kilda. He's been linked to Geelong, Gold Coast, Sydney at this stage. Now, another one that was popping up was Zach Butters. That looked like it was squashed about a week ago when Port Adelaide were adamant that he would see out his contract at the very least. I think even he said it after the game that he would be there in 2026.
Yeah.
Sam McClure, in his wisdom that we love to see from Sam McClure, said, "Oh, this is live. This can happen." Big Victorian clubs are still keeping an eye out for him. I mean, these sort of stories as well. Zach Butters, Zach Merritt, Charlie Curnow, yes, they may go. Yes, there may be some unrest, but your evidence is, they're disillusioned at the moment. That's the new word, apparently. Disillusioned is the new word in the trade rumour market. I've never heard this word used before. And all of a sudden, I don't know if Damien Barrett and Sam McClure have the same roll of toilet paper for word of the day, but disillusion must be the new word. I don't know why that's all of a sudden the remark that has to be made when it's a trade rumour. But disillusioned is all of a sudden a word that has to be used in trade rumours now.
And it's not like you can take the actual person who's like Zach Butters for his word anymore. It's like he wants to stay for 2026. It's like that doesn't matter anymore though. Sam McClure can just make it up like, he's just disillusioned about wanting to be there. He's feeling unrest in Zach Merritt wanting to be there. He wants success. It's like everyone wants success. Everyone wants to win premierships.
Yeah.
It's like, but he just said he wants to stay. He's loyal to Essendon. Nah, that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean squat.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure when he says in interviews and stuff like that he's wants success, I don't think that just necessarily means straight away, that means he wants to go to Collingwood.
Yeah.
That means he wants to go to Hawthorn. I mean, I guess that some people could make the point on this channel that, you make trade videos, I mean, I do it. I mean, obviously I do it. The main reason is just to make the bag of that $100 that maybe I get from a video from Trade Rumours. But a lot of the time I will actually I think that if you're going to bring up these trade rumours, whatever, but I think you got to give an inkling of truth to it and actually just bring up the point. I know this sounds stupid. It's most likely not going to happen, but we've heard some murmurings around this. I feel like that's a good point to make at the very least. But the way that a lot of these guys frame it is like there is actual talk that they are going to leave. Like with Zach Butters, with Zach Merritt, this is open. There's a market for him. The managers are putting out the feelers. And then at the end of the segment, when people have stopped listening and have written their comments saying you're a fucking moron, Sam McClure, up yours, Damien Barrett. What sort of mousse do you use in your hair, Sam McClure? It looks like you use a kilo of it. After those comments have been written and you flicked away from the reel, they've actually said, look, I'm thinking he's probably going to stay anyway.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, all right, thanks for letting us know that, bro. But actually, you've just spun a bunch of bullshit that's going to make it back, which is going to hit the back page of the Herald Sun, the Age, all these sort of newspapers and outlets. And now with social media, they're spread all over the internet as well. So everyone's like, we've heard the disillusioned word that Zach Butters is, going to be looking to leave and all that sort of stuff. And it's just like, for Christ's sakes, could you at least come out first of all and say, this seems ridiculous. This seems out of the ordinary. We've heard the fact that Zach Butters wants to stay at Port Adelaide at least. He says that he's going to stay out until his contract. But we've heard a couple of murmurings. My understanding is he's going to stay at Port Adelaide, wants to see out his contract, but there are a couple of clubs that are still looking at him. I don't think that's a bad idea. I still think that you get your point across that there's a couple of rumours circulating, there's a couple of whispers, but also this is pretty far-fetched to believe.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking out my ass. But I think a lot of it is just a bit of fucking bullshit. And now, because a lot of the players as well have gone on their holidays, it seems like all these journos just have free reign can say whatever the hell they want.
Yeah,
as long as they add towards the end of the clip when it's done after a minute 30 and, Instagram are about to cut off the reel, they say, look, I think he's going to stay. It's like, yeah, okay, bro. Good on you. Fucking whatever. And yeah, it just seems ridiculous to me. Now, moving on from that, another interesting thing I wanted to talk about is extra time for finals. So, if this does happen, a lot of teams there could be extra time. When was the last time? Port Adelaide v West Coast?
Yeah,
pretty
great game. Yeah, great game.
I mean, obviously Luke Shuey took a dive.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but you can't tell anybody that because even though he's even come out and admitted that doesn't matter though.
Yeah, anyway. So, if games do get to extra time, this includes the grand final, so St Kilda fans can, have their whinge. After the siren, if it is a draw, there will be a 6.5 minute break when teams can change ends. That's obviously between full time and extra time. 2 3-minute halves will commence and play plus time on. So that means obviously when the game becomes a stoppage, boundary throwing, all that sort of bullshit, a goal was kicked, there's obviously the time will stop. I think everyone knows that. So no break between the first and second halves though. So basically teams will just switch ends.
Yeah.
And then they will keep on going. I think that's the same rules as it's always been. I don't think there's
since they brought it in, yeah.
Yeah, and then the interchanges, clubs receive 10 more rotations for extra time. So from my understanding, that means that if we're getting towards the end of the quarter and you've got like 73 and then the siren goes, that means you have 12 rotations left.
Yeah.
Okay, that's okay.
So
I thought it would just be 10.
Yeah, it's like with soccer, when you realise you're going into extra time penalties, you try and figure out who's your best penalty takers and you bring them on and then you take off the other ones who you're not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to use those rotations.
You don't want to use those rotations. So in soccer, soccer is a bit different because you want to put your best penalty shooters on. Yeah. In this, you got to put in your best players that.
Yeah, because you don't want to use those as subs if.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming they don't say this here. This is from 7 AFL. This is. It doesn't say anything about injuries, but I was assuming that wouldn't count as a rotation. I'm pretty sure that would just be brought off the ground.
Like even with blood rolls, it doesn't count actually as an interchange.
Yeah, that's right. So, and if scores are level at the end of extra time, you go around again. So there's no. So I mean, we could be going on forever at this point. I mean, we could be like, in tennis, how you like have 6 sets. Well, I don't think they do this anymore, but you can just continue on. What was it? There was a couple, I don't know, it was like 10 years ago or something in the US Open when they went all night.
Yeah.
And they went through the day because no one could break the tie break. That's pretty funny. That's what they should do in the AFL. You get to like fucking 3 a.m. the next day, everyone's sitting there in the fucking stands, absolutely pissed. And, especially Adelaide Oval. If this happens, Crows v Collingwood, there's going to be so many fights around the ground. 3 a.m. So many. There'll be punch-ups and make-ups in between the extra time quarters. It's going to be hectic. Yeah, I just wanted to bring that up quickly. But for now, I think we're going to get into the preview to the new round. So at this moment in time, finals are right on the horizon. Who do you think can go all the way? Actually, no. Let's put it this way. Do you think there's a team that can do it from outside the top 4? And if they can, who do you think it is?
Yeah, of course I think they can, and I think it's the Giants. I think they had a lot of things. They just slipped up last year. They really just fumbled it. They were in the top 4. They had the Swans in the first half. They had the win. They stuffed it up. The next week they did the same thing to Brisbane.
They had that one way more than the fucking Swans game as well.
They had it halfway during the third quarter. They had it and they screwed it up. I think Kingsley and Toby Green will come back with a vengeance, and they will go all in.
You putting a certainty almost on the Giants winning in week 1 of the finals at least?
If I had to, it would probably be them. I think they're going to come out with a vengeance, but with Sam Mitchell, Hawthorn always will have a plan.
It's going to be interesting as well because whoever wins that game is going to have to go to Adelaide Oval for the next week or go to the MCG and play Collingwood. So whoever wins that first final, The Giants haven't exactly been bad in finals games in like hostile environments either. They've won a couple of big matchups in finals at the MCG against Collingwood too.
Yeah.
So that would be a massive first final. For me, I say it in the preview in a moment, but I think Freo are my team. I think they've shown that they've been able to beat the top teams in the competition better than anyone. And I really think and they haven't been too afraid of playing away from home. They've been able to beat Collingwood at the MCG. They did drop the game against Brisbane late in the year, which would be a bit of an issue which would be a little bit of a, softener for them, but I still think they can beat anyone on their day. I think they have the perfect line of forward, midfield, and defensive mix. Their ruck, I think they're starting to work out the way they're going to use Jackson and Darcy. And I also really like the X factor of Hayden Young. I think he really adds something to them, and he can play all over the ground. We saw him at the start of his career play off half-back. He's been through the midfield throughout a lot of his career in recent times, and up forward, he's very good as well. So I personally think Fremantle, but right now, premiership favourites, I've been saying it all year, I think Brisbane go back-to-back.
Yeah, I think Brisbane at the moment. I think when they want to, they can turn it on and they can just show everybody why their team's so good. And they've had a finals-like run for the second half of the year. They've actually played some tough teams, and they've played some finals-like games, especially in that last game against the Hawks.
Yeah, well, I think as well, one thing to mention is the fact that the Crows and the Cats both had very easy draws. Well, not easy. The Cats had a very easy second half of the year draw. The Crows have had a pretty good run on the draw this year, considering the fact that a lot of the finals contenders they've played, like they've had to play once, have been Adelaide Oval. So they've won all those games. So for me, I think that Brisbane have had a really tough draw. For the fact that they finished in third position, which is higher than last year, and they still won the premiership, I think they're in the box seat right now. And if they can win this first final against the Cats, opens right up for me.
Yeah.
So that's what we're saying, early predictions for the finals. But for now, let's get into the preview to week 1 of the finals. And we're going to be starting with Adelaide up against Collingwood. Of course, probably the big matchup of them all. Only played against each other a few weeks ago. A little bit of controversy came out of that game as well. But just looking on the teams themselves, Adelaide are probably the hottest team in the comp right now, compared to Collingwood, who are probably one of the worst teams in it, maybe just in front of the Gold Coast. Now, the Crows are in absolutely massive form. No denying that. They have been able to win their last 9 games and have beaten the likes of the Gold Coast, Hawthorn and Collingwood. Now, even though those 3 wins did come at the Adelaide Oval, it's not going to be such a massive issue. And the fact that their first final will be at home is not exactly a massive downside for the Adelaide Crows. Now, the Pies, on the other hand, have been really shaky. Since round 18, they've only been able to beat Richmond and Melbourne, while their losses have came against the Gold Coast, Fremantle, Brisbane, Hawthorn and Adelaide. So all finals teams that they've lost to, they have been unable to beat some of those top teams, which is probably a scary prospect coming into finals. Now, Adelaide should be able to see the return of Max Michaelani, but the loss of Rankin to the suspension will be massive, and Rochelle is probably going to be out for another week. So it will be interesting to see if Adelaide will go with the likes of the young Taylor and Dowling to help up forward, or if they'll maybe look towards some more experienced bodies like Pedler and Murphy. Now, on Collingwood's point of view on the injury list, the massive out will be Jeremy Howe, who will miss at least a few weeks with a groin injury, so it means they'll have to go to the VFL to potentially pick out either Charlie Dean or Will Parker. Parker was a player who did go up against the Crows a few weeks ago, so it'll be interesting to see if they'll go with that again, but it's still such a massive out for the Pies, who have really struggled this year without Jeremy. Now, we'll get to a little bit of a final segment for the preview this year, and it's going to be called the Finals Focus. We're going to be taking a look at a player from each team of every single game who we need to keep an eye on for every matchup. So for the Crows, I'm looking at Ben Keays, and for Collingwood, it's Jordan De Goey. First, Ben Keays. Without the likes of Isaac Rankin and Josh Rochelle, this guy has an important role this final series. Kicked 3 goals in the game against North Melbourne in round 24, but he's going to have to be an X factor for the Crows if they're going to be able to go all the way. He needs to replicate the final series of Kalachi from 2024, in my opinion, and if he can, it'll go a long way for the Crows to potentially be able to get a drought-breaking premiership. While Jordan De Goey, on the other hand, has had a wretched run with injury throughout this year, but in round 24, we saw some of the best of him in that game against Melbourne. Collingwood, and he was probably the best player for Collingwood that night. And if the Pies are going to be able to knock off the Crows in their first final, he needs to have a massive performance if they're going to cause an upset, and will most likely have to hit the scoreboard as well. But to my tip in this game, and it is going to be the Crows by 5 points. These games are always pretty close, so I'm expecting the same here. However, with the Crows crowd right behind their team, I think Adelaide will get this one done. The Crows forward line just looks too strong for me, and especially without Jeremy Howe for Collingwood, I can't see a way where the Pies get this done and able to stop all the avenues to the Crows getting to goal. Now, my brother has put some players in focus as well. He has gone with Sam Berry for Adelaide and Josh Dacos for the Pies. So with Sam Berry, he says that he has done some tagging roles throughout the year. He expects him to go to Nick Dacos, who has played pretty well against them in more recent times, needs to stop his influence through the middle of the ground, and they win this game. But with Josh Dacos, he said, playing off halfback most of the year and playing some midfield minutes, I think they'll have to try something different if plan A fails with the likes of their midfield core. Maybe Josh Dacos needs to go through there. But his tip is Adelaide as well. He's gone for the Crows by 8 points. The Crows have been the best side all year. Midfield battle will be huge. The Crows just has to make a 50-50 in there. And with the Pies being pretty poor in defense over the last couple of months, he thinks the Crows forwards will be able to get it done, which I tend to agree with. Next up, we get to the second qualifying final. Cats up against Brisbane, of course, a replay of last year's prelim final. The Cats going into this one with probably one of the softest draws going into the finals, but has also given them a real positive being able to rest some players up, while the Lions have had one of the toughest fixtures throughout the entire year, and for them to finish third is a pretty massive achievement. Now, the Cats have won their last 5 games, however, none of them have came against the top 8 side, while the Lions have played 4 top 8 teams in the last 5 weeks, and the one outlier was the Sydney Swans, who have arguably been the best team in the competition outside of the top 8. So both teams having pretty contrasting runs into this final series, but with everything considered, the Lions have stood up pretty well against the teams that they've played against. But on a positive for Geelong, I have noticed in the last few weeks that even though they've still been a little bit prone to going to Jezza Cameron at times when he's not really been open, it hasn't been as bad as it was in recent weeks in round 24. They're still looking for the free option rather than just being Cameron focused like they were against Essendon and Port Adelaide a few weeks ago, which I think will definitely help them going into finals, because if they're too Cameron conscious, then they're going to struggle in this final series. And on Brisbane's point of view, with their defensive attributes, they probably have the perfect matchup for Jezza Cameron in Ryan Lester, who's done the job countless times with pretty good effect. And if that doesn't work, they have some great options, great plan Bs. If Jezza Cameron does get off the chain early, they've got Harris Andrews, even Brendan Starskovich I think could do that sort of role as well. So Brisbane have countless options down in defence if Jezza does get off the chain. Now, on the injury list point of view, the Cats probably have one of the healthiest lists going into this final series, which is a massive plus for them. On Brisbane, though, they should see the return of both Berry and Neale for the first final. However, they will be without Eric Hipwood, who is likely out for at least the semi-final, maybe the prelim. Obviously, he could play in the prelim final if they are able to beat the Cats this week. Now, on my finals focus, I'm going with Bailey Smith and Hugh McCluggage. Baz Smith, first of all, a few years ago, we absolutely saw him blow up a final series with his performances for the Dogs in 2021. Well and truly put him on the map. And after a terrific first season for the Cats, I think it's time for him to explode. I'm expecting a big final series from Baz Lanka, and I think that he's going to really shine for the Cats. And I think he'll have to if they're going to be able to win the flag Geelong. And on Brisbane, Hugh McCluggage is my guy to watch right now. I think this guy is incredibly underrated for such a long time, and I think he finally saw some recognition last week with his first All-Australian selection. I think this guy does all the right things and will become evident in the finals. As a footballer, he's one of the most honest players in the game, and I think Hugh is going to be in for a massive final series. But to my tip, and I'm going to actually be going with a little bit of an upset here, I'm picking the Lions by 8 points. Playing away from home doesn't have any sort of issues for the Brisbane Lions. In fact, it's probably been an advantage for them this whole year. They've actually done better away than they have at home, and they have a relatively good record against Geelong in recent times, winning their last 3 encounters against them. I think the hardened bodies of the Lions will just get over the top of the Cats in one of the all-time finals in my eyes. Now, my brother's players in focus are Shannon Neale for Geelong and Charlie Cameron for the Lions. He says, on Shannon Neale's point of view, played in last year's final series when Hawkins was out and needs to stand up if Geelong are going to go deep this year. No one player can carry a team in the finals, probably alluding to Jezza Cameron there, and he thinks that Shannon Neale, after a pretty disappointing first final series last year, needs to respond in 2025, which I agree with. And Charlie Cameron had a below par year, played a few good games towards the end of the season, but we know what what happens when he turns it on. And if the Lions are going to be able to go deep, he's going to have a massive finals campaign. But to my brother's tip, he has also tipped the Brisbane Lions by 21 points. He thinks the Cats' draw has been way too soft, which he does believe does really help the Brisbane Lions. He says it could help the Cats with a lot of older players, but with the faster side of the Lions, he thinks they'll be able to catch them off guard. So both of us going with the Brisbane Lions in that game. Up next, we get to the first elimination final, Saturday afternoon, GWS up against Hawthorn. Both teams honestly could have made the top 4 if it wasn't for them dropping one game in the last few weeks of the season. GWS had a pretty tough couple of weeks coming into the finals, but they did perform relatively well, beating the Gold Coast and just getting over the line to the Saints. And after last year's straight sets exit, I don't think Adam Kingsley is going to let that happen once again and go out straight away. However, on Sam Mitchell's point of view, I think he'll really want to back up their performance after going out last year against Port Adelaide, even though they were pretty much the favourites in that game despite being away from home. And the Hawks' form coming into the finals has been pretty solid. Yes, they did lose to the Lions in the final round, but they could have really won that game if it wasn't for a poor umpiring decision late against Carl Amon. And before that point, they did beat the Pies and the Ds. Now, the Giants could see a mass influx of players in this game, with the likes of Josh Kelly, Jesse Hogan, Jake Stringer, Jack Buckley, all potentially available for this game, and Stephen Coniglio is also a chance. While on Hawthorn's point of view, the biggest inclusion could be Josh Weddle. They will need his run coming into this final series if they are a chance of potentially causing an upset. Now, on my finals focus, I'm going with Toby Green for the Giants and Jai Newcomb for the Hawks. Toby Green, first of all, was poor in the final series last year in both their losses and needs to lead from the front if the Giants are going to be able to go all the way. Like Kingsley, I don't think he would have liked the way they exited the finals last season, and he needs to lead from the front if his team is going to go to victory in this one. And on Hawthorn's point of view, I'm looking at Jai Newcomb. He's their leader in the middle of the ground and is a position in my eyes where the Hawks can get on top of the Giants. If Hawthorn want to persist with this tall forward line of 3 or 4 talls, I think they're going to have to get first hands on the ball, and considering Jai Newcomb is the extractor of that team, he's going to have a massive night for the Hawks to cause an upset. So, to my tip, and I'm going with GWS. I think this game will be pretty close for 3 quarters, but after GWS got beaten relatively well in the last 2 final series in the second halves, I can't see them making that mistake again. I also think the Giants' defense does have enough down there to quell the influence of all the Hawks forwards, so I think the Giants get this one done. But now moving to my brother's players in focus, he's gone with Aaron Cadman for GWS and James Sicily for the Hawks. First of all, on Cadman, he says he'll likely get the Josh Battle matchup if Jesse Hogan does play. He needs to put up a contest, let the Smalls go to work. After a breakout year for the kid, this is where his reputation will well and truly be made. And I can see a real big game from Aaron Cadman in this final series, so watch out for him. And on James Sicily, the captain needs to stand up when it matters. But had an up and down sort of year, pretty slow start to the season, was probably hampered by a bit of injury, but has returned since a couple of weeks off and has come back to some relatively good form. But they can quickly be erased, that good form, if he doesn't hold up in defense for the Hawks going into the finals. So massive final series for both these teams. Like I said at the start of this little preview to this game, both of these teams could have made the top 4 and could have had a second chance, but now they sit in really precarious position in a do or die clash. So it's going to be massive, that one. He has picked the Giants in this game. He says they should get a few back through injury. He doesn't trust the 3 or 4 tools in the Hawks forward line going into a finals game. Giants have too many match winners and he can't see Hawthorn containing them. But now to the last final of the first week. It is Freo up against the Gold Coast. Even though these teams didn't qualify for finals until the final games, their best could compete with anyone in the comp. Freo have been great to watch at their best this year, and it would be a fairy tale finish for the Dockers if they could get it done for Nat Fyfe and go all the way and win a flag. And honestly, I think Fremantle can do it. Out of any of the teams outside the top 4, I think Fremantle are my team that could go all the way from 6th spot. Now, Fremantle potentially could have made the top 4 if they didn't drop that game against the Lions a few weeks ago. So now they do sit in a bit of a tough spot going in a do or die clash against the Gold Coast. Now on the Suns, of course, they are playing in their first final series. This is massive for the club as it's been a long time coming. But honestly, if any team has just fallen into this final spot in 2025, I think it has to be the Gold Coast. However, they have qualified for it, so who knows what can happen. Now in terms of form, even though it only reads slightly different with the Suns losing 1 extra game over the Dockers in the last 5, I think Fremantle have played much better footy. Now looking on the injury point of view, Freo really have a lot of players in their reserves trying to vie for spots to potentially take over that 23rd position as the sub, but the only other injury concern on the Dockers point of view where they have to look at this final series is Hayden Young. He honestly could be the X factor that the Dockers need going into the final series, but is he fit enough? That's the question mark for mine. But relatively speaking, the Dockers are almost full strength. And looking at the Gold Coast, they could see the return of Will Graham this week. But other than that, they're relatively healthy as well. So both teams looking pretty good. Now, going into the finals focus for mine, Fremantle is Caleb Sarong, and for the Gold Coast is Touk Miller. For Sarong, throughout this season, I have said countless times, if you tag Sarong, you can beat the Dockers. So I really think this guy is the most important player out of the entire finals series. And I will be interested to see if the Gold Coast have some plans to quell his influence, because they don't necessarily use a tagger. So I think Caleb Sarong's a big watch in this game. If the Dockers are going to go all the way from 6th spot, I believe this guy needs to have a massive campaign. But on Touk Miller's point of view, he may not be the captain anymore, but I think his leadership will be pivotal in the Gold Coast potentially causing an upset here. He's going to have a massive night to get his team over the line, along with the likes of Noah Anderson and Matt Rao. But now to my tip, and I'm going with Fremantle by 30 points. Out of any teams making up the numbers in this final series, I think the Gold Coast are the real culprits here. I think they have struggled to play full quarter performances throughout really the second half of this season, and I really think Freo are the real deal. And am I a team to watch out of this final series? With the Dockers at home, I think they'll be able to get this done relatively comfortably. But now onto my brother's players of focus in this final series. He's gone with Shea Bolton for the Dockers and Bailey Humphrey for the Suns. On Shea Bolton, he says he needs to show why they picked him up. It just can't be Caleb Sarong and Brayshaw. With Shea Bolton be able to change a game in 5 minutes of footy, this will go a long way in the Dockers be able to make a charge in this finals campaign. He thinks that Bolton will be an integral part in the Dockers play this final series. And on Bailey Humphrey, back from a slight injury, but can play a role through the forward line, as he's one of the best one-on-one young players in the game up forward, as like that medium-sized player, and can really help with Ben King if he's not able to take the contested mark. He also likes the idea of Bailey Humphrey going through the middle of the ground, which can be a real asset to the Gold Coast, especially with Rao and Anderson. If they're being able to be quelled, Humphrey can be a real asset through there. And if they want to make their first final series a memorable one, the Gold Coast, he thinks that Bailey Humphrey could be the guy to get this one done. But he has tipped the Freo Dockers by 44 points. Fremantle are just going to be too good defensively throughout the second half of the year, and he can't see the Suns playing 4 quarters against good sides. And with final series being all about being consistent, he can't see the Gold Coast getting this one done, unfortunately. But for now, let's get to our full tips for the first week of the finals. So my tips are the Crows to beat the Pies by 5 points, the Lions to beat the Cats by 8 points, the Giants to beat Hawthorn by 25, and the Dockers to beat the Suns by 30. And my brother's full tips for the first week of the finals are the Crows to beat the Pies by 8 points, the Lions to beat the Cats by 21 points, the Giants to beat the Hawks by 9, and the Dockers to beat the Gold Coast by 44 points. But finally, guys, I quickly wanted to announce the winners of the tipping competition for the channel and the Fantasy League, which you guys may not have seen at the moment. So the winner of the tipping league, who led throughout the entirety of the year almost, was Leviticus. He did end the year on 161 tips, so congratulations to him for the winners of both the leagues. Just message me on Instagram. I'll ask you a few questions just to prove that you are the winner, and then I'll give you the gift card for the win. So well done to you, Leviticus. And on the AFL Fantasy point of view, the Cheetah Cubs Timber Ashworth is the winner, so make sure to message me, guys, to get your winnings, because congratulations. Throughout the entire year, you've been able to win throughout both the competitions, so well done to both of you. Up next, we get to my brother's betting segment. Of course, we did miss it last week, but don't think you would have had a betting segment for us last week anyway, because there was nothing really on the... Well, there was no games.
Not really.
Who's the leader for the on betting department? Anything? The leader for the Brownlow, is it Nick Dacos still?
Yeah, still Nick Dacos.
Do you think he goes and wins it?
No, I think if you're looking at some multis or some bets for it, I think you're looking at the other players around him. You're looking at the Anderson, you're looking at the Dawson, and some other players around that. I just think that Nick Dacos is too short at a price, and
there's no value in it.
There's no value, and the fact is that late in the year, I think there's a few games that he won't poll in when Collingwood's gone through their slump.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't have a big enough lead, I think that someone will catch him. Even Bailey Smith. He had a couple good games late in the season as well.
Yeah, the problem with Bailey Smith, obviously, is the fact that he missed a few games, but there was a lot of great games this year that he did play.
Yeah.
And if you're going off, the Boundary Riders medal, where do you think Dacos finish? Equal third? Who finished first? Jordan Dawson. I think he still wins the Brownlow at this point. I think that all the games that the Crows won, he was basically in their top 3 players, and because they won so many games, he's going to be right up there. And there was a few, awards for a few games in the votes. Obviously, we didn't give Jordan Dawson a vote because of the defensive attributes. Really, like the defensive players did so well, which he may poll a 1 vote or a 2 vote in. in the Brownlow because they don't give a fuck about how good a defender did.
Yeah.
So I still think Jordan Dawson for mine. But anyway, let's get to your bet for the week. And then after that, we'll get to the exclusive for the channel.
All right, guys, let's get into the first week of the finals. As always, we'll start with our Thursday night same game multi. This week, we're going to Adelaide Oval with Adelaide v Collingwood. First leg is Scotty Pendlebury for 20 plus disposals. Second leg is Rory Laird for 20 plus disposals. Third leg is Ben Keys for 15 plus disposals. The fourth leg is Darcy Cameron for 15 plus disposals. And the final leg is Tim Membry to kick 1 goal. Valued at $3.75. My certainty bet this week is Josh Dunkley for 25 plus disposals against the Cats on Friday night. Valued at $1.81. My outside the boundary bet this week, I'm taking Tom Green to kick a goal against the Hawks on Saturday afternoon in the elimination final, valued at $3.40. And as always, guys, gamble responsibly.
What's your exclusive bet for the podcast this week?
So I've done all the research, I've done everything. I think this is the most certain bet of the week.
Oh,
and
shit.
I think
Hang on a minute. This is a second certainty bet, is it?
I think you're looking at. Don't look at the first 3 games. You go to the last game. You go to the fairy tale game of Freo and Gold Coast. You look at the one player that we've always mentioned in this game.
I mean, he's almost a channel favourite at this point.
Yeah. The one take you've always had. You tag Sarong, you beat Freo. I think they're not going to tag him. He'll get 25 plus, and at the moment that's paying $1.50. I think that's his biggest certainty bet of the week, and I think that'll come through halfway during the third quarter.
Oh, God. Halfway through the third quarter, you think he's going to have 30?
Oh, I think
he might as well go to 30 at this point.
Yeah, I don't
Almost.
know.
Almost.
I want you guys to win money. I don't want you to. I just want to have you sit down at three quarter time and know you've got your money.
You can polish off your beer, polish off whatever well, it's probably going to be night, so you polish off your beer, polish off maybe a cup of tea or something. Maybe we've got a couple of tea drinkers, I'm sure.
Yeah. Finish
off that cup of tea at 3/4 time. Just sit back, put your feet up, and just won $20.
Yeah,
off that bet. That's exactly what we want. So that's your certainty. That's your second certainty. Is that what you're saying? You put in a certainty. You made 2 certainties already this episode.
I'm pretty sure of it.
You've put a certainty on the Giants to win in the first final. You've put a certainty on Caleb Sarong. You may be putting the Moz on him too. This could be all over. We could be seeing Hawthorn go through.
I could come back next week and be like, yeah, don't listen to me.
Yeah, we could be seeing the Hawks go straight through. Caleb Sarong be lucky to scrounge up 15 touches. It could be all over, guys. All right, but that's pretty much what we've got for the betting. So let's get to our final segment. And of course, we did announce the winner of the Flog of the Year in the live stream last week. Lauren Rose, the interviewer who doorstopped Jack Ginnivan at the Adelaide airport, was the winner, worthy winner. Every single person I've seen so far that has seen that clip or watched the stream has said, yeah, definitely.
100%.
Even with Caroline Wilson sitting there as one of the nominees, who I think overall is a bigger flog, but for that specific action, Lauren Rose is just all out and our favourite. She was leaps and bounds in front.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
But we will have the finals flog segment going into the rest of the year, and mine is going to be casting our minds all the way back to the Wednesday last week, in fact. So this is when the Legends game was put out for everyone to go watch, and there's been a couple of other flog moments, but this has been in my mind, and this ruined one of our live streams. This was on Thursday last week, I think, actually.
Yeah.
Thursday. It was the fact that they didn't actually play the game live for the majority of the country. They only played it live in Melbourne, I believe, while the rest of the country had to wait on delay. And some people didn't even I think most people in the chat who were telling me while we were live streaming this, in WA, they didn't even play it until the game finished. And they played it as like a replay. What the fuck? Like, people want to watch the Legends game. We saw how many people watched it. Like, so many people were at the game. I think it was 30-odd thousand at a Legends game, the most they've ever had. And by the way, we're going to get into, this is going to be a caveat. So this is just not just the Legends game. We're going to keep on going after this because there's a lot of dominoes to fall into effect. This is a multi-stringed flog of the nomination. So that was one thing bad enough. You couldn't watch the game live. And in this day and age, Channel 7, you sucked with like previous years of not only content, but just your live broadcasting of the footy was so boring. The amount of times that BT sounded like he was, paint drying was more entertaining than his commentary. So that was just garbage. But now they've finally brought some more content to it. And we understand that the the media bargaining code wasn't favoured to free-to-air. I get that. And is that fair? Probably not. I think that Channel 7 have a big part to play in it because their content on football for so many years was just so lackluster that Fox Footy, the AFL almost had a license to just go, oh, they can point to these different statistics and to people saying that the AFL on Channel 7 sucked, that they could just, sneak in the fact that you could get it, you'd have to pay for it now. I think that's maybe a little tinfoil hat theory, but anyway. But then you finally have a chance here to put it on live, to not only, capitalize on the Legends game returning for a lot of people who wanted to watch it, like old heads and stuff, but the fact that so many new people are going to watch it because of all the influencers and stuff like Dan Gorringe and that.
Yeah.
You could have put that on live. So many people were just for me, which is a very small market, were in my live stream complaining about the fact that the game wasn't live. And then I bought a VPN and realized that 7 Plus doesn't allow VPN, so I just wasted fucking $20. So that was just great. Anyway, so that's the first part of it. Channel 7, you could have played that fucking live because they can't blame Fox Footy for this. They can't blame KO for this. They can't even really... I don't even think they can blame the AFL for not playing this live.
No, I don't think so.
So, yeah. Next up, it's for BT's commentary throughout the game. Have you heard some of the commentary he was making throughout the game?
Oh yeah, it was pretty shit house.
Yeah, he was basically just having throwing little jabs at people like Dan Gorringe, the Prime Train. I think it was Ollie Gill as well. These guys are the more influencers of the AFL space. I understand that Dan Gorringe obviously played football, but we're seeing more as an influencer or an AFL content creator now. Maybe not influencers, maybe not the word, but. Yeah, the amount of absolute bullshit he was throwing out about them, the influencers, this and that. For one, they were probably some of the better players who played out there as well. A lot of people watching would have been there for the Legends. I understand that. But most people, the biggest cheers that were getting around the ground were for Dan Gorringe touching the footy.
Yeah.
For Ollie Gill kicking that goal in the goal square. For Prime Train kicking the footy, getting the ball. Yes, the stars and Cyril Rioli as well, who, he was such an X-Factor player. He got one of the biggest cheers as well. It wasn't for I don't know, I would understand that you'd call Cyril Rioli a legend at his time, but you think of the best players in the game ever. You're thinking of the Nick Rewalts, the Luke Hodges, the Gary Abletts and that. The influencers were getting bigger cheers. They were bringing the crowd. So for BT to just continually make jabs at them and act like they're so much lesser, it was just a joke.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And it was crap. And then, obviously the incident with Dan Gorringe and Dave Hughes wasn't great. I mean, it was whatever. It was it was a hit. And look, Dave Hughes is a bit older. I think he was one of the older people out there. He broke his ribs and punctured a lung. Not ideal. I don't even know if it was Dan Gorringe who did it because Joel Patfull tackled him.
I think it was Joel Patfull who did it.
Yeah.
I don't think it was Gorringe. I've seen the replay of that moment when he's in the ruck. He didn't really he could have done it, but
I think Gorringe is definitely playing into it.
Yes,
which is more than fine. Whatever, that's his shtick as a content creator to play into the issue. But then, did you hear what Jared Waitley did?
Yeah, I thought that was Yeah.
I mean, he was he was talking about the Legends game, and then he's just suddenly pulled out the fact that he's the dickhead. He just called Dan Gorringe a dickhead for it. And it's the AFL for one were going to fine him for all the fingers he was given to the crowd, which was just a joke and what everyone was laughing about. And the AFL are going to fine him. But then Jared Waitley is we don't want to have a dickhead. We need to have a dickhead policy in these Legends games. It's bro, 3/4 of the fucking crowd wouldn't have been there if he wasn't in the game, doing all that sort of stuff as well.
As most people do know, is that Dan Gorringe actually got 3 bays at that ground for the game. That's that'd be over a couple of thousand. Yeah.
At least, and that's not, and and they sold out pretty quickly too.
Yeah.
Now that's not to say, obviously, that he was the only reason why it was popular. Obviously, that's not the case, and he's not made that case. I don't think really a lot of people are, but the fact is that he was promoting it. Is one of the big promoters of it. He was one of the biggest entertainers on the night as well, and he kicked the winning goal as well, which got so many views on the clips and everything. He was, and not just him as a whole, but the content creator space is a big market for the AFL to grow the game to the younger audience, and that's how the game's going to continue to grow. Because yes, these Legends games are great to see the legends of the game, But also, kids aren't going to know who Gary Ablett is, like, in 10 years' time. Well, maybe they will, but they won't know exactly. We're going to know the Gary Ablett, but kids who are growing up are going to know the people like Dan Gorringe and other content creators that are coming up.
Yeah.
They're the ones who are growing the game. No one gives a fuck about BT.
No.
I'm sorry, but no one gives a fuck about you. You're not the fucking head honcho of the AFL.
Now, what I thought was typical of the game, of Channel 7, to be honest, is that the commentators were Dipper, Andy Marr, Mick Malloy, BT, and
Billy Brownless.
Now, I'm not saying that they should have got all young people into it, and I know it was probably because the fact is that it has been like 6 or 7 years since the last EJ Witten game, Legends game.
Yeah.
And they wanted to play into that a bit. But as you said, the social media platform now with content creating and all that with Dan Gorringe, Dylan Buckley, all of that, it needed to be a bit more. Yeah, I think that the fact is that BT was just giving jabs all night. Like, he was I think that they needed to bring some young head that.
Well, I think
if you a bit about it,
if you notice a lot of the content that's been put out online from the Legends Instagram page, all the pages that have been posting, a lot of that is like they were getting content creators to actually be a part of it. Like the guy who's a part of Type Media, the guy who makes all the funny videos, like the memes and stuff. He was a part of the night as well. He was helping out with interviews and stuff. The guys from 100K Sports, I think, were a part of it as well. So they were actually involved in it. But the main broadcasters of the game itself had nothing to do with that and were just making fun of them.
Yeah.
And it's like, you do realise that they are a big reason why people watch the game, and that means you get your paychecks now. It's because people are watching the game a lot more. It's as popular as it's ever been.
Yeah.
And the content creators like I don't know if it makes a huge glaze sesh on fucking Dan Gorringe, but him, like you said, the Dill Buckley and that, which by the way seems like he's a bit of a cunt behind the scenes. Fucking, did you hear that in the last episode? Not ideal. But anyway, him, the 100K Sports guys, even just looking at YouTube, like the Cardmans and all that sort of stuff. Kados McDonald and that sort of stuff. Those are the guys that are growing the game to the younger audience. And I'll tell you what, they're going to be the guys who are growing up watching the game from here. Yeah. And they're the ones who are going to be paying for the memberships, going to be paying for all that sort of stuff and paying for their wages.
Yeah. Yeah, because if you look at it now, like young kids, teenagers, they're not watching Channel 7 agenda setters. They're not watching KO on the couch and all that. They're watching YouTube. They're watching podcasts with Dan Gorringe on...
Well, they're watching the clips.
Yeah,
do you think any of those fucking 15, 16-year-olds are watching the agenda setters? They're watching your clips on Instagram from the guy who's 25 years of age making the clips. Yeah. They're not watching Caroline Wilson's. I'll tell you right now, I have not watched one episode of the agenda setters on 7+. No one fucking is. The only people who are watching them are the ones who are about 50, 60 years old who can barely work fucking 7+ and are struggling to use it. Who are watching it on 7 Live. Not many people are actually watching the show. They're watching your clips, and that's what everyone else is watching because they can't fucking listen to your fucking babble garbage for fucking 60 minutes with fucking 20 ads. By the way, watch fucking Channel 7 watching the first part of the Legends game. The amount of fucking ads on Channel 7 now seems so much more than it was, and it's so bad. No wonder people watch YouTube now. Like, people get angry about mid-roll ads on YouTube. They're like 15 seconds. Imagine watching fucking 2 minutes worth of fucking garbage ads and then having your random, Channel 7's got this new show on. No one cares about the fact that you're putting on The Rookie 1 season late. No one gives a fuck. We'll watch it on Netflix, bro. Anyway. That was a long finals flog, wasn't it? Anyway, I think it was pretty good. So a lot of caveats there. We got Jared Waitley. We got BT a couple of times. Channel 7 as a whole. So we're taking down a lot of giants here, a lot of Goliaths, guys. So if you haven't supported on this channel, then I don't know what the hell you're doing. You're really just wasting our time. Fuck yourself. No, anyway. And by the way, with that chili stuff, if you watched the live stream,
we tried.
We tried. I'm sorry, we tried. I ate 4. I tried to carry. You ate 2. And you had to run off to the servo. What did we finish? Like 11 o'clock at night? Yeah. Fucking to grab a couple of milk drinks just so we could fucking survive. And I'll tell you right now, I know we didn't finish it. And I do apologize. But if I went any further, I wouldn't have left the toilet on, on Friday afternoon. I wouldn't have been able to work. I was on the toilet all afternoon on Friday. just fucking suffering because of how bad the chilies were. Just, I could not get off. It was so bad. Anyway. Leave you with that image to fucking leave you this episode. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching this episode of the Boundary Riders podcast. Hope you did enjoy it. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe over on YouTube. And if you are on Spotify, make sure to leave us 5 stars and make sure to follow so you're notified on the podcast and the review, which will be back this week, every single week. But again, guys, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We'll catch you all next week.
See you later, guys.